6 months. That's literally all it takes to flip your entire financial reality if you change the model that you earn through. Let me show you exactly what I mean. In February this year, I landed back in Melbourne, Australia after living for a little bit in Bali. My credit card was maxed out. My account balance was basically zero, and literally my card declined trying to buy a Skybus ticket from the airport to get back to the city. I had to grab what was left from 3 different bank accounts and combine them to get one bus ticket, and then I had to walk 2.5 kilometers home from the bus station because I couldn't afford an Uber. Only 6 months later, I'm at JFK Airport in New York City, flying down to Colombia with $60,000 liquid and all of my credit cards totally cleared. The same work ethic and the same hours. The only thing that fundamentally changed was the financial architecture that I was earning through. Because once you control the inflow, everything downstream self-corrects. Before I explain the mechanic, let me give you a bit of the backstory so that this actually makes sense. So in August and September of 2024, I went on a trip to Europe with the limited savings that I had as an employee. And I took annual leave and basically blew through pretty much all of my savings and ran up some money on my credit card, which I then spent the rest of the year paying off. As I'd burned all my annual leave, I had a few reduced pay months to close out the year, and I got my final paycheck on about the 14th of December 2024. Of course, being the holiday season, my spending was basically high. It was one of the highest points of the year throughout December and January with New Year's Eve, etc. And I made the transition on 1 January 2025 to being self-employed. And I only had one client, and the agreement that I had with that client was that I would invoice them in arrears at the end of the month, and then they would have 7 days to pay me, which meant the earliest I was going to get any money from that was the 7th of February. So I basically had to survive from the 14th of December through to the 7th of February on a reduced employee paycheck that had been heavily taxed and supered. It was about $7,000, which didn't go very far. So as a result, my credit card ended up maxed out by the time we got toward the end of January, and I was literally going to Denpasar Airport in Bali with nothing. I had just enough money to pay for the Grab to get there, and I remember thinking my baggage was overweight, and if Jetstar catches me, I'm fucked. I actually can't pay for the baggage. It's going to be so embarrassing. That was my situation at the start of this year. Now, this was just pure structure. The employee economics meant I had zero control over when my money arrived, how much of it arrived, or how much got skimmed before it even hit my account. And then came the moment where the whole thing just snapped into perspective. I land back in Melbourne, I head to the Skybus terminal because I definitely can't afford an Uber. I hope my card has a balance. I bought some food on the Jetstar flight, so I wasn't sure what was on the card. I tried it, it declined. I checked the bank, there wasn't enough. I checked 2 other banks. Thankfully, I had scraps that together were enough for one bus ticket. I took the bus, got to the city centre, didn't have enough for the $12 Uber because I'd literally gone down to $1.50 or something ridiculous. And so at that point, I walked in the dark with all of my luggage for 2.5 kilometers back to South Bank across the river in Melbourne. Honestly, it was such a ridiculous situation. It was embarrassing. And I thought to myself, never again. This is the last time, literally, that I will ever operate on employee economics. And this is really the part that nobody teaches you. Your financial life doesn't change much when you get a raise in your job. It changes when you stop earning like an employee and you start earning like a business. When I was an employee, I was on a $150,000 salary, and the biggest paycheck that I ever saw land in my account was $8,400 for 1 month. After tax, after super, no control over the timing. But the moment that I switched to invoicing through my business, that very first payment that I did finally get on the 17th of February was $16,000 for the work I'd done in January. In one hit, cash. It was literally double the biggest month I'd ever had in my entire working life. And that was just the start. My credit card was maxed out, but my credit card had a $14,000 limit. That one invoice paid the whole card off and paid my rent for the next month. And I remember just being completely blown away. And here's why. When you're a contractor or an operator, the cash hits your account before everybody else takes their cut. It doesn't mean you don't pay tax, but for example, your GST is paid quarterly, so you get to hold it for 90 days or longer. Your income tax is paid annually, and you can defer it and you can put it on arrangements and all sorts of things. You have it under your control as to when you pay. You control the timing, you control the client mix, you can control the billing rhythm. And so the moment that I controlled this inflow, everything downstream started to fix itself without permission. And after that February invoice landed, the whole model flipped. I managed to add more work and more clients on top of the first client that I'd negotiated, and this all just stacked. It was the same hours that I'd been working as an employee, but suddenly the numbers were violent. 2 months later, I passed $25,000 cash in a single month. That was triple what I'd ever made in my life. And this wasn't because I was better. I hadn't discovered some magic hack. I wasn't working any harder. I just wasn't trapped inside a capped payment system anymore. And the psychological contrast of all of this hits harder than the financial one. I remember sneaking my overweight bag onto Jetstar thinking, I had low-key anxiety, if they catch me, I'm actually fucked. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to unzip this suitcase and put on 5 layers of clothing to get it under the limit and just look like a fucking loser. And fast forward only 6 months, I'm in JFK airport flying down to Colombia with Avianca. I've got my credit cards fully paid off, $60,000 liquid available, and I went to go prepay my baggage, my carry-on baggage, and saw that they wanted $100 and I thought, fuck that. Even though I have the money, I'm going to try and game them for fun. And so I snuck my overweight carry-on bag to the gate, trying to get on the plane without paying for it. They caught me, and ultimately it had gone up $5. They charged me $105 on the spot. Despite how criminal that is, that's another story. But the whole point was, I realized the contrast between, just 6 months earlier, I literally wouldn't have been able to afford to pay for my overweight baggage, and now it's like a fucking rounding error that I don't even notice or care about, and I'm actually trying to game a baggage policy just for fun. And I think that's the key. Financial peace isn't about being rich, and I'm certainly not rich, but it's about not being fragile. So I think the key lesson from this, at least what I took from it, is if you're stuck financially, the problem probably isn't you. It's probably the model that you're earning through. Employees get capped, delayed, and the money gets skimmed before it even hits your account. Business owners get to control those inflows, and they get the money gross with the tax on top, and then they decide when and who they pay. Once I changed how money entered my life, 6 months later, I didn't even recognize my financial reality. I literally went from walking home at night because I couldn't afford an Uber to having total financial peace, to the point where I'm playing games with airlines in just 6 months. And it's not because I made more money, it's just because I changed the structure that I was earning through. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. I drop one like this every 48 hours, and I hope to see you in the next one.